Joey Borrero, good to have you back
How
on.
you doing, Ivan?
We are excited for Teofimo versus Shakur.
It's gonna be a big fight. It's gonna be a big fight. I'm ready for the fireworks.
It's been a minute, so tell us what's up with Joey Borrero. What you up to?
Me, just pretty much right now. I'm in a season where I'm just sticking and following God, worrying about my family. I'm focusing on Him. As far as my boxing careers go, I just placed it in His hands. Things been going crazy. I was supposed to have a big fight December 20th, one of my biggest paid fights, biggest platform. Things happen. Fight didn't materialize, due to some unforeseen circumstances, but we're here now, and I gave it all to God. I was like, you know what, God, if it's for me, you're gonna bring it to me. And if it's not, then you just let me do your will. Boxing to me right now is on the back burner. I'm not really like, oh, giving up on it, but I'm also not gonna push for it and then wait for all these things because I've noticed boxing is so full of corruption, and there's so many things going on, and I can get into it about the situation that happened to me and everything, but at the end of the day, there's no point in dwelling in the past. It already happened. What am I gonna do going forward? What changes am I gonna make? What do I have to do in my personal life to be better? Not just worry about boxing, because that's what I tell people. I'm like, we can't just focus on just boxing because there's way more to life than what we just see. There's way more to life now. Of course, there's boxing fans. There's gonna be people that love the sport, that appreciate it, that study it. But there's more to it. Now that doesn't mean that I'm against it. Like right now, this Shakur Stevenson Teofimo fight is gonna be a great fight. I'm excited to watch. It's gonna be a really really good fight. And it's normal for us to like seeing these things, so like I said, is everything has its place and purpose.
Yeah, boxing to me is like love and hate relationship. There's times where I hate it, especially the business part of it. Uh, I've seen I've heard a lot of bad things, behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I still watch boxing because
Mhm.
passion. I love it. So
And it's great to do that. It's great. I love boxing. Don't get me wrong. I love boxing. You know what I mean? But I learned to love my God more than what I was putting all my energy to, which was boxing. And people are like, "Oh, well, this is the dude that was talking in a couple of interviews ago." Yeah, because God transformed my heart. And is different. Now, I also understand from talking to my uncle, he also came to the realization, former world champion, multiple times legend, but he also gave his life to God. And he's told me, he's like, I haven't had more peace than right now that I'm serving God. So it's beautiful to see. Now imagine what he did without really having a relationship with God. Imagine what God can do with him. Imagine what God can do with me. So that's why I'm saying, I'm like, I don't see my boxing door closing. I haven't hung up the gloves yet, for those that are maybe wondering. No, but I'm letting God take control over my life so that I can worry about everything else. Now, going back to the boxing aspect, to the Shakur Stevenson and TeofimoLopez, people are underestimating Theo in this fight. Now, if Theo shows up the same Theo that fought Sandor Martin, we're going to have problems. But if the same Theo that fought Loma shows up, Shakur's going to have trouble.
that's the question mark. That's a big question mark there. Which Teofimo Lopez is going to show up?
And that is big, And to this day, I've always said, even as a pro, as an amateur, the fighter. there's two fighters in this generation that have proven that they were the best. One is Andre Ward. Two is ShakurStevenson. They have the best boxing ability out of all the fighters. Technically sound, great boxers, great fighters. But we all know boxing is not just about knowing how to box. You got to know how to brawl. You got to know how to fight. You got to have power. I've been I've been in the ring with fighters that are way better boxers than me. That there was no question in my mind that if I would have fought their fight, they should have completely obliterated me or beat me. But guess what? I did not fight their fight because styles make fights in boxing. And this is what I love about boxing. There's fighters that are good boxers till you hit them hard. Once you hit them hard, they get on that bicycle. And we can say De La Hoya, we can mention different names. I mean, I'm just gonna throw that out there, But at the end of the day, it's all about what comes from you. How hard are you working? What are you putting into boxing? And are you giving back with what you're making in boxing? Not just financially, but are you giving wisdom back to the youth? Are you giving back to others?
No, there's a good point you just put there. Another big question mark is, as good as Shakur is, can
Mhm.
he take a punch? What if Teofimo lands? Can he take a punch?
That is questionable. Let's refer back to the Cepeda fight. Shakur got hurt in that fight. Regardless, if anybody can tell me Shakur didn't get hurt, I'm like, dude, Shakur got hurt. And Cepeda can crack.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, did he take Cepeda's power? He wasn't able to take it. Now, did he survive and did he box well to move out of trouble? That's the difference. That's what made the difference. Was his ability to use his boxing to survive and be able not just to survive, but execute his game plan. And that is a big part of boxing because you got fighters that have incredible chins that you can hit them with the kitchen sink, they're not going to go down. It's going to take a lot. For example, Mayorga. Mayorga got purposely took 3 left hooks from my uncle to his face. Purposely. Did not get hurt. Now when did he get dropped? He got dropped to the body, not to the face. So his chin and his power resistance was incredible. You see, and like I said, there's fighters. That's why boxing is so interesting because you don't know how a fighter is going to react to certain things. Now, does Theo have the power to hurt Shakur? Yes. But power is no good if you can't land it.
Yeah, no, it's interesting how you just mentioned Mayorga and Tito because I can respect Mayorga even though he lost. I can respect
Mhm.
for for saying hit me, let me see, um, I can respect that.
One thing about Mayorga, and I always tell people, okay, people talk smack about Mayorga. People say Mayorga was a punching bag, this and that. You're gonna tell me that a man that beat Vernon Forrest, the man that was known to have impeccable timing in boxing, not just like it was a great boxer and may his soul rest in peace. I pray that he's up there in heaven. You know, but with that being said, you can't take away the credits and the accolades that Mayorga also built because Mayorga wasn't your boxer. He was a fighter that even though he wasn't disciplined, look at what he accomplished. Now imagine if Mayorga would have taken his career seriously, been disciplined with the sport, and actually done different for himself. one of the greatest fighters in history. I believe he could have been. But that's a big question, you know. Again, that's a big question because Majorga people loved him because of how reckless he was. He would come into the ring smoking Marlboro Reds, you know, and not really care. Like doing unorthodox things that boxers were not used to doing. You know, like going over there and like Shane Mosley's wife, he smacked the butt out of Shane Mosley's wife during the weigh-in. You know, like he would do crazy things like that that would make the other fighter want, like, man, I'm gonna rip this dude's head off. You know, and we can't also forget Majorga beat Fernando Vargas. You know, and at that time both of them had lost to Tito.
I was just gonna say that, and Fernando Vargas, was a better boxer than Mayorga. So
Not just that, an Olympian.
yeah,
An Olympian. You cannot forget. People forget Fernando was an Olympian.
yeah, yeah. No, Fernando Vargas was always a favorite of mine. But when I think about him going to war with Tito, big mistake. Big mistake.
Yes. Yes. Not just that, but like I remember when he was in the corner, he got dropped. Kathy Duva, believe it was Kathy Duva at the time, told him to take the full 5 minute rest. And he got out and went in early. And I believe that that was a mistake. He should have taken the time to stay composed, recovered, and maybe he could have given a better fight. Maybe he could have won. You know, there's so many questions, if, ands, or buts. Again, and my uncle is Tito, and I love my uncle. But I'm also a boxing fan, and I'm not going to betray boxing analytics because you have to look at it from different angles. You know, it's just like, man, people have always wondered, well, what if Oscar never ran from Tito? Would he have gotten knocked out? And I've even seen it in interviews where Oscar himself says that, you know what? Whoever stands in front of Trinidad is bound to get knocked out.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's what makes it interesting. Like we just never know what's gonna happen. Styles make fights, like you said. Um, and and speaking of Vargas, speaking of Mayorga, they did put down Tito.
Hmm.
They did knock
Yes,
him down. So you can't say anything bad about them.
not at all.
But Tito, Tito with his power, his heart, his cojones, was able to walk right through them. Yeah,
And not just that, but is levels to it. You know, there's things that both of them they should have done better. They should have prepared better for. I feel like when Fernando was in, he was when Fernando was young and he went to fight my uncle, he was high off himself, meaning that he was winning, undefeated. I'm gonna go fight. I'm the champion. I'm gonna fight the best in this division, which is commendable because nowadays we don't see that in boxing. But I believe that he should have waited a little bit longer, then go after Tito. You know, because if we didn't, in all honesty, if we wouldn't have seen Tito versus Fernando, we might have ended up seeing one of the most anticipated matchups in that weight class, which was Iquarte versus Trinidad.
oh, imagine that fight.
Hmm.
That would have been a hell of a fight.
And you know, and this is what I tell people about. Like Iquarte, he was a great boxer. Weird style, and he was. When you see Iquarte in boxing, it reminds you of, oh man, I forget his name. He used to play for the Bulls. Dennis Rodman. you kind of reminds me of a Dennis Rodman, but for boxing. And it's like, what? 'Cause just because of the style, how he used to paint their hair, they weren't at that time. That wasn't normal for you to do. Now you see everybody doing it, but at that time, it wasn't. It was like a marketing that they would do. But one thing about Ike was a great boxer. Now, my uncle was a great boxer, but he was known more to be a boxer puncher and a brawler puncher.
Yeah, yeah, no, but it's interesting you mentioned that because going back to Teofimo and Shakur, uh, Shakur is a good boxer,
Mm.
but I just feel like you know he doesn't take chances. He doesn't take chances, and I understand that boxing is to hit and not get hit, but unfortunately, the casual fans don't want to see that style of boxing.
I don't believe it's not that they don't want to see it. It's just that sometimes as a fighter, you yourself, you have to take chances. For example, one of those fights. Look at Diego Corrales, almost knocked out. Oh, there he got dropped 3 times in a row, same round. He went to the corner. His coach said, "You have to show me something. You have to show me something." Came back out and knocked the dude out. Won the world title. There's fighters that even though you get dropped, even though everything seems hopeless, you have to take those chances. This is what I tell people is boxing requires faith. You have to not just believe in yourself, believe in your abilities. And I believe strongly in God over everything. But you also have to have the power of faith because faith moves mountains. Regardless if you're believing in yourself, regardless if you're believing in God, which is what I do. I believe in God and I believe in myself, which is a very crucial part of boxing. Because if you can't believe that you're going to beat somebody, guess what? There's a saying that says there's people that say I can and there's people that say I can't, but they're both usually right. Because if you say I can't, you're already blocking your mind. And if you say I can, you're opening those doors that were closed.
Yeah, but what do you have to say to those that say why should Shakur take chances when he can continue winning the way he's winning?
Listen, Shakur needs to fight the best, and he's taking these chances because he wants to be great. He doesn't want to just be known. You see, and we see it pretty much everywhere. Everybody was critical. Oh, Shakur doesn't have power. Shakur this. Shakur is boring. Last fight, he didn't knock out Cepeda when he fought Cepeda. But you cannot tell me that was not an entertaining boxing match.
It was, but I just feel that Shakur doesn't take enough chances. He did show a little heart, He did show a little, but not enough to convince the public that okay, we got a new Shakur here. We got a new.
Of course, it was his first fight, him fighting like that. Now, if he reverts back to what he was doing, I understand now, but we got to give him, we don't know. We haven't seen him really how he's working for this fight. Again, styles make fights. This could be a great matchup. You know why I love it? It's because Theo will chase him down, but will box him smartly to get him to fight. And Shakur, there's only so much running and avoiding you can do from a boxer and a fighter that knows how to bring in that pressure also.
I think another problem with Shakur that many of us have is that you know during his press conferences, including this one, he's been talking a lot, but when he goes in the ring, he doesn't
Deliver.
deliver. So going back to Mayorga, you know,
Mhm.
he had, in my opinion, he had the best press conferences. I enjoyed them.
Oh, man.
Enjoyed them.
Everybody did. Everybody did. Because one thing, even though Majorca would not back what he would talk, people love seeing that type of drama. People love seeing a fighter that is, regardless if the world is against him, Majorca believed in himself and he still talks smack to sell and to let people know, you know what? I'm here. If you want to weigh me, you're gonna have to kill me, and I'm gonna talk smack while I'm doing it. And even if I lose, I'm still gonna talk smack. That was Mayorga for you.
And I think that's good for boxing. I think it's good for boxing.
We need that. Boxing now needs that because boxing doesn't have those exciting fights anymore. Like what's the most we're getting right now? The WBC sending a letter to Sufa Boxing because they don't like Sufa Boxing and they don't like what they're trying to do and they want the Muhammad Ali Act and this and that. Listen, in my opinion, boxing is so corrupt. Why is all these big sanctioning bodies against an organization that is willing to give platform to fighters like me or other fighters that don't have a huge name, don't have a big name, but yet they're giving them the opportunity to shine big in a platform and also give them a pay that they weren't getting before because most of us fighters, unless you're a world champion, unless you're making big, like you're have a lot big following or you have all this, you're not making past 15, 25, maybe 50 grand a fight. And when you're starting out, you're only making 500 to $3,000. That's what people don't realize. People think boxers are making crazy amount of money because they see the 5% that are making crazy amount of money and they generalize everybody. But in all reality, Sufa has a pay grade scale that they're willing to give fighters 100,000, 10,000, 50,000. And for some of these boxers that are opponents, or regardless if they just regular boxers, that's the most money they will ever see in their careers. Why? Because big companies, big promotionals, big promotions, big sanctioning bodies won't give these small fighters the opportunity. We see it all the time. Oh, the number two or the number 10 person got unranked because this person paid more or this promoter paid more to get their fighter ranked. And now a dude that you never heard of or a dude that's barely coming up hasn't fought really anybody is now ranked number two because this promoter that was behind him paid the money. Do you think that's really fair? Do you think that's fair for the fighters that are giving their all for the sport?
No, not fair at all. I think that's the problem with boxing right now. The problem with boxing is it's all about money, and everyone forgot about the sport part of it. Uh, a lot of fighters fight for money, which I understand. You got to get paid, but I think what happened is a lot of these fighters coming up now don't don't care too much about where they're from. For example, when your uncle was fighting, he was always
Mhm.
yelling Puerto Rico. He was always yelling, you know. So what
Ve
happened?
alto, ve.
Gallardo. So what happened to all of that? It's all talk about money. It's all talk about
And that's the problem.
following. The following. Oh, I got such a huge following. You don't.
Mhm.
To me, that's a joke.
Yes, agreed. Agreed. It's a joke. I understand the following is important, you know. I understand that it is a big part now of boxing because you're gonna to the promoter it matters because how many people follow you is how much you're gonna sell. But it doesn't matter if you have a following if you cannot entertain or deliver to your following the entertainment that they desire. It's not worth it to have a following and yet you give an example or live a life that you don't want your kids on TV watching. Like there's so many scandals going on, and I don't want to name boxers, but there's boxers smoking, there's boxers drinking, there's all of this, and they're putting that out on their social media. These kids that are up and coming, they watch that. Now they want to get addicted, they want to smoke, they want to do all these things. They think that being taking the sport not as serious as back in the days, like a Tommy Hearns or like a Sugar Ray Leonard. You know, they think, oh, we can do this and we can still be big on TV. We can make it, you know. But that was the difference back in Oscar De La Hoya's time, back in Trinidad's time, back in, when these fighters were coming up, you see them in the gym, no smoking, no alcohol. Everything was doing great interviews so that the youth could see and be hungry. And that's where most of these fighters that are today, that's who they grew up watching. But they forget that the example they were given is the example that they got to give.
Very well said. I agree 100%. I know exactly what you're talking about. Um, I've seen it myself. But like yourself, I don't want to mention names, but I know exactly what you're talking about. So I think another problem is there's a lot of young fighters right now that uh, I think are mentally weak.
Mm-hmm.
They're mentally weak, and the reason why I say that is because they don't want to talk to media. They don't like to be asked certain questions, and during press conferences, they don't want to be insulted by
Mm-hmm.
their opponents, which I feel is ridiculous because boxing, as a fighter, you should be not just physically ready but mentally ready. We never saw the great fighters from the past. We never saw them whining about their opponents saying certain things to them.
Mm-hmm.
But now you see it all the time where, one fighter says one thing, the other fighter gets offended, and it becomes a big issue. Like, isn't this the fight game?
That's the key. You just said it. It's a fight game. It's a fight game. It's not patty cakes. It's not escondite. It's not tag. It's fighting. So if you're going to fight, we have to be what's called modern day gladiators. But one thing, what did gladiators have was honor. They fought for honor. They had honor fighting. And that is what we are missing in this sport is the honor. Now me, my honor is not in me, it's not in my victory, it's not in my country. And I love Puerto Rico. You see, I'm wearing a Puerto Rican flag right now. I love Puerto Rico. I grew up like that. I love my people. But I don't fight for my honor. I don't fight for my family's honor. I fight for the honor so that God, the name above all names, can be lifted. That's why I'm called El Hijo de Dios, the Son of God in Spanish because it's not about me, but it's what I can do. You see, and again, and now people, oh, this guy's preaching. No, like the word of God says, what good is it storing up treasures here on earth? What good is it if I'm gonna store everything here on earth, but when I die, I can't take none of it? That's why we store treasures up in heaven. We glorify God, and I'm not saying not everybody has to do this, but your honor might be somewhere else. Your honor might be doing something in this sport for another reason. Maybe your honor is being a good role model for these kids. Maybe your honor is fighting for your family. Maybe your honor is fighting for your loved ones, but you have to put your heart and commit to it 100% because that is what we're missing in this sport. Man, this is a joke. Look at Gervonta Davis on the run. Why? Why are we on the run? Why are we promoting all these, these kids that are watching you that looked up to you, that thought you were the best fighter? Now they see you're on the run. They think that's okay. They think hitting women is going to be okay. It's not. Oh, but Gervonta did it. Oh, this and that. Is that what that person's going to say when they get arrested? And then another thing is, again, with the sanctioning bodies, you're going to have somebody that you say, oh, I stand for honor and I do this, but yeah, you're still going to have him as a champion, and then you're going to, after for so long, after so many accusations, so many cases, now finally you're going to strip him after you have already had so many things that you should have expected. The fighter hasn't really fought anybody that you could say is, oh, it's a big world title fight. He deserves the world title. Come on now.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what's happening. But going back to Teofimo Lopez, like I just thought of him right now with what you just said. You know, why is it an issue when Teofimo says certain things, and when other fighters in his division or around his division say certain comments, no one says anything. But when Teofimo says it, it's a problem.
Because people like to hear things from certain others. They don't want to hear from people that they're like, oh man, like Theo is very bold, very outspoken. That's why I respect him because he reminds me of himself, of myself. I'm very outspoken. I don't care who tells me, hey, don't say this, don't say that. At one point in my career, I had a manager that told me that I had to change it. I used to call me double pride, doble orgullo. I changed my name from Double Pride to El Hijo de Dios, and he was against it. I don't care what people think. If people don't like it, then fine. I'm like, I'm not fighting for people. I'm fighting for God. I'm fighting for I'm fighting for all these things. I'm not worried about what people think. But guess what? People have came, and I appreciate that they came to know the name, but not just know the name, know the God that I serve, and watch me follow Him. Now, how this ties into Theo is because Theo is very bold, very blunt. He talks about these organizations. He talks about these sanctioning bodies. He talks about the dirt that goes on behind the scenes with these promoters. And people don't want to accept the truth because they want this beautiful, pretty picture being painted to them. But in all reality, it's not good. They want to see, oh, boxing's not as bad. Oh, boxing's not as corrupted. Boxing is corrupted. And you're being let known by some of the fighters that are on top of the on top of the food, you can say the food chain, yeah, because I always say I'm like these fighters are gonna have to fight me one day and I'm gonna have to eat them up. So I say the food chain. I'm gonna have to beat them up and they're gonna come under. But you see them on the top and they're telling you themselves it's corrupted, yeah, you rather not believe that and you rather watch other people that don't tell you the truth, that are just gonna listen to what their promoters say. Why do you think Clapback Thursdays was made? Because people were commenting and then starting to realize what Oscar was doing behind the scenes. And I will say it to this day. Oscar de la Hoya, you were a fighter yourself at one point. You know how dirty the business is. Floyd Mayweather, you were a fighter yourself. You know how dirty the sport is. Why, instead of changing the sport, are you making it worse to the fighters that are coming up? Why, instead of helping the fighters that you should be helping and uplifting, Why are we stealing from them? Why are we, and again, I'm also not accusing and saying that they are, but why are we putting them in positions or with contracts that are going to take most of their money, leave them without certain things? Because I cannot accuse. I don't know if they're really stealing or not. There's also a back and forth that you got to look at, he said, she said, but going based off of what all the other fighters have said, that's my opinion looking into it.
Well, I got a question for you now that you brought up these promoters. With Shakur getting opportunities after one of the worst fights I've ever seen versus De Los Santos, why
Mhm.
is De Los Santos getting opportunities?
Because he lost and they just put him under the rug, and that's what's wrong with this sport. Fighters that are great, that have great boxing ability, that are entertaining to watch. Guess what? You're not on the top of that 5% list. Put you under the rug. Forget about you. How many fighters have has that happened to? How
Well,
many sweeps under rugs has there been with different promoters? When Loma lost against Salido, what happened? They dusted it under the rug in two more fights. Everybody forgot Loma lost to Salido, and they gave Loma another title opportunity. He became world champion. But everybody forgot about the whole situation. Just like Victor Ortiz, a really good friend of mine. We're just gonna dust under the rug what happened when he fought Mayweather. In my opinion, when I was watching the Victor Ortiz fight against Mayweather, Victor Ortiz was giving Mayweather a run for his money. In my opinion, I feel like Victor Ortiz was even beating Mayweather. But what happened?
everyone forgot about Victor Ortiz.
There's a lot of fighters that they deserve a lot more credit in boxing history, but they don't get it. A lot of people, and that's what's wrong. When you have money, when you're a big promoter, when you have all these things, you forget about the fighters that got the promoter there, because this is, I will always say this to fighters. Guess what? Don't let the promoter think he's the boss. Don't let the manager think he runs your career. Don't let your coach think he runs everything. Why? Because if the fighter does not fight, they don't make money. And if they don't make money, they cannot sustain their promotional company, because they make the money off the people that watch these fighters. If these fighters all decided, you know what, I'm not gonna fight under a promoter, I'm not gonna do this, I'm just gonna negotiate things myself. I'm gonna talk to the other fighter directly, and you know what? We'll split the cost of whatever's made at the gate and whatever's made for the event. We'd have a complete different world of boxing because the fighters would be handling everything. But in the world that we live in, they don't want the fighters knowing that they got that type of ability.
Good way to put it. I guess that's why some fighters like Mayweather became his own boss.
Some promoter. Why? Because now you're not getting migajas from a big Subway sandwich. You're not getting crumbs out of a big Subway sandwich. Now you're getting half of those Subway sandwich. It's like I always tell people, it's like you got a pizza. These promoters give you one or two slices of pepperoni, and yet they keep their whole pizza. But when you become a promoter, you either get a chunk of the pizza or you get half of the pizza, because now you're entitled to it. But that's where fighters are not being trained now to know the business. Why? Because it's not beneficial to the fighter. The fighter, they're like, oh, the fighter just needs to worry about boxing. The fighter just needs to worry about this. What about the business side? What about all this money? Guess what? they're trying today. They talk so bad about Don King, which Don King was not a good promoter to fighters. He was a good promoter as to make the best fights happen, got the best venues, filled the places up. But guess what? He was not a good promoter in the sense of taking care of the fighters. And we see that. But all these promoters that talk bad about him and all that, what's going on? They're becoming the same.
Well,
But because it's Don King, we're gonna point the finger to him, but we're not gonna point the finger to us.
well, I think when I think about Don King, I think Don King is one of, if not the greatest promoter out there. He gave us the best fights. He did some amazing fights. That we can watch over time and time again. So say what you want to say about Don King, but he put on some amazing events.
Pros. Now people forget this. If it wasn't for Don King, would we have a Bob Arum? If it wasn't for Don King, would we have Top Rank today? No. Bob Arum was an attorney. Before he became a promoter, he was an attorney. Opened up his own promotional company. He said, wait, this guy's a genius. He look at all the money he's making. I can do the same thing. Now, why as fighters we can't have the same mentality as these guys? Why as fighters we have to work under a Bob Arum? Why as fighters we have to be under a promoter like Oscar De La Hoya? Why does as fighters do we have to be under Don King and all these other things? Well, we can be our own promoters. We can have our own shows. We can build our own things. Of course, you need money, yes, but there is different ways on how to do it. There is different things that a fighter can do to get there. Boxing used to be the poor man's sport. Now you can't even call it that. You need money just to even get ranked or fight.
I think that's the problem. Like you said, boxing used to be the poor man's sport. Now I hear a lot of fans saying, "Why is Haney fighting when Haney has money?" So I think that's a problem there.
Yeah. And I don't blame, like, I can also respect that you have money and you still want to make a name for yourself. You want to fight. That's cool. Yes, that's good. He's showcasing his ability. I'm not against that. But what I am against is using your money to play and manipulate the politics in boxing to get where you want to get to, and put all these fighters that are up and coming under the rug. Now, there's been rumors for years, and I believe it to be true, because it came from really, really credible sources, people that were around Devin for a long time, and they've told me themselves, and I've heard it from their own mouths. Devin lost a fight in Mexico. What happened to that fighter that beat Devin? Why did he get put under the rug? Guess what? Because there was money involved in the whole situation. And if I got money, money for the promoter has power. So guess what? The promoter pulls strings. All these commissions, the Columbia Commission, the Columbia Commission is very corrupt. Oh, well, you know what? Like you see all these things going on. Money moves them. They just all want money. Puerto Rico, I've seen the commission there be corrupt too. Mexico, come on now. The sanctioning bodies, the commissions that are supposed to fight for a fighter's rights, the commissions that are supposed to protect fighters, they don't really care about it. They just want to take this money. They just want to make money, put it in their pockets, and forget about these fighters. If they die, they die. How many deaths have we seen in the last couple of years in boxing when we didn't used to see that? Back in the early 90s or 80s, 70s, rare that you would see these things happen. But now once every 2 years or every year, you're seeing one or two fighters die in the ring.
Could that be the reason why Shakur Stevenson fights the way he fights?
For sure, he's being smart. He doesn't want to get hurt. These punches are not vitamins. I'm like, look at my nose, bro. My nose is game banging. I've been in this since I was 6 years old. You know what I mean? I've been here with some solid shots. These punches are not vitamins. I respect Shakur's style and I can appreciate it because I know what it is being in the ring and taking punishment. But I also know that there is a crowd that supports you. There is people that want to watch you to be entertaining. And there is more to boxing than just running away and boxing, being smart. There's more to the aspect of boxing. I've boxed. I've had to box and stay outside most of the time in some of my fights. But I also know how to brawl and I know how to fight. I know how to make a fight exciting. I know when to turn it up. I know when to turn it down. You know, when you got fighters like Shakur that don't really have power, you only can depend on your boxing ability. I understand why his style is the way it is.
But the question
I
is,
always tell people, I'm like, yeah, go ahead.
oh, sorry, I was gonna say the question is why can't Shakur do what Whitaker used to do? Whitaker had no power, but Whitaker was still, fun to watch.
Because Pernell Whitaker was a different breed. And I will always say this. And I, to this day, I love my uncle. But let's put a Pernell Whitaker in his prime against my uncle. Do you think the fight would have turned out the way that it did?
And you know how much I love your.
I know. And I know. And I'm his nephew, and it's coming out of my mouth. There's different styles. Styles make fights, and Shakur just needs to find that style that is entertaining, but it's also safe for him. It also keeps him protected. And you couldn't have given a better example than Pernell Whitaker.
That's the problem. That's the problem I have, But you know, um, speaking of Shakur Stevenson, um, we just saw Murataya versus Cruz, uh,
Oof.
and
That was, ooh, man.
I want to get your thoughts. I want to get your thoughts because after this fight,
Mm.
I'm not sure if you noticed Keyshawn Davis celebrating. What were your thoughts when you saw Keyshawn Davis celebrating? Because I'm
One thing,
gonna ask you a second part to this question. So
uh,
first of all, what were your thoughts when Keyshawn Davis was celebrating?
Keyshawn was worried about Cruz.
I think so.
Keyshawn does not have the style to outbox Cruz, and he knows it. It's different levels to this boxing. You see, when have you seen a fighter with only 6 fights be a world champion in the history of boxing? Other than Lomachenko. And that right there in Loma was an incredible boxer. That right there speaks levels to itself.
But you see that.
Nobody expected Murataya to win that fight. Nobody did.
Oh, I thought Cruz was gonna win. But this is the problem with boxing right now. Keyshawn Davis celebrating when why I don't understand that kind of mentality, that way of thinking. You know,
If I would have been Keyshawn, instead of celebrating, first thing I would have done is gone up the ring and start, okay, let's make it happen now. You won, let's make it happen. Let's give the public what they want. Let's unify. Let's do this. Celebrating because of a fighter lost a fight, and now you don't have to fight a fighter that might possibly beat you. That's not good. That's not a good look for you as a fighter. That just shows you where your heart really is, who you really are. You see, a lion and a tiger, if you take the stripes off a tiger, they look very, very similar. But they're both known for characteristics. You can only call one the king, the other one's just a big cat with stripes. Now, that just shows you who really is the lion and who's just a cat with stripes. Because a lion, it doesn't matter who stands in front of him, what comes against him, or if another lion comes from another family to attack he's gonna stand there, and even if he dies, he's gonna protect and he's gonna fight. Because what? The lion is very proud. Not just proud, but he protects. He fights for what he wants. A tiger will only stay there and fight, but if he starts losing the fight, a tiger will run away and try to save his own life. He don't care about his cubs. He don't care about his family members. He don't care about nothing. He cares about his survival. And that is what we saw last night. We saw the difference. Well, not last night. In that fight, that is what we saw. The difference between a lion and a tiger.
Now, with what we saw last night, I'm gonna mention another incident that occurred years ago, which reminded me of what just happened, and that was Shakur celebrating when Miguel Berchet got knocked out by Oscar Valdez. I don't know if you remember that, but
Why? Burchett was one of the most feared boxers, even in Mexico. Even in Mexico. The fighter that came from Cancun. There is not a lot of good boxers in Cancun, Mexico. I fought in Cancun, Mexico. I seen the talent that there is in Cancun, Mexico. But one thing that I would hear and I heard when I was fighting in my career in Mexico is that Belchet would be in the gym all the time. He would be always ready for a fight. He didn't have to get ready. He could take a fight in last minute notice and be in condition. And that is what made the difference between a real boxer and this and that. Now, the moment Belchet lost, we're going to put him under the rug now. Because now he lost. He's a dangerous fighter. He can take another fighter out. Let's get rid of him, put him under the rug, and forget completely about him. Put him under boxing history because we don't want to take the chance and possibly lose one of our money or cash cows going forward in the future. That's what happens.
that's exactly what happened because everyone I spoke to at the time wanted to see Berchet versus Shakur.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw Shakur celebrating, I was like, that that doesn't make sense. Why are you so happy?
It does. He was worried. He was worried. Why? Because Belchet was a fighter that will bring a fight to you, will make a boxer, any boxer's night uncomfortable. Because one, Belchet has an incredible chin. Why he got dropped by Valdez? Because Valdez knew when and how to place the punch. Now, Shakur probably would have lost, in my opinion, to Belchet. Why? Because Belchet would bring the fight to Shakur. Shakur does not have the power to make Belchet respect him like he needs to. And regardless, you can move all you want, but there's only a certain amount that your legs in that ring will allow you to move. He might have been able to move 6 rounds, maybe 5 rounds around the ring, you know? But would he have lasted the whole fight? Would have been able to be on the bicycle the whole 12 rounds and be able to box the way that he was? Was he gonna get caught with something eventually, which what I believe is what was gonna happen in that fight? But again, it's one of those speculations. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, but it's not gonna ever. We're not ever gonna see that fight happen. Why? Because in this day and age, it's not like, And I this is sad. People want to compare the four greats from back then to the four grades that we have now. There's no comparison. What are you talking about? Marvin Hagler, Thomas Hearn, Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, they all fought each other. They all lost to each other, and it didn't matter who lost to who. They fought anybody. And now we don't even see a fighter that has a loss against another fighter that has a loss fighting each other, because everybody wants to have a best record possible or intact perfect record.
Well, that's where I'm gonna go to now with this Shakur and Keyshawn Davis talk. The question is, someone asked Shakur, why won't you fight Keyshawn Davis? His response, he's my friend. Is that a problem? That he doesn't want to fight his friend?
There is no friends inside of that ring. There is no friends inside of that ring. Guess what? Outside, I love you, bro. You know what? Let's do this. Inside of that ring is business. Let's both make money. Okay. Antonio Tarver, Roy Jones Jr., best friends. Best friends. When they fought each other, did they fight as friends? Did they respect themselves as friends in the ring? Yeah, outside of that ring, they were still brothers. Why can't we go back to that?
That's the problem. But that's the problem that I see right now.
Why can't we go back to that? You know what I mean? Like, my last fight I was offered, David Lopez, former training companion with me, great friend, humble kid. I love his family. His family is like my family too. But guess what? They offered me the fight. I wasn't going to be like, man, that's my friend. I'm not going to fight. What? A world title opportunity against my friend? Okay. You know what, bro? We're still brothers. We're still friends. But guess what? Once we step into that ring, you're going to have to kill me if you want to get that belt. Or I'm gonna have to do the same to you if I want to get that belt. Why? Because we are both gonna give our best to provide for our families. One, I fight to glorify God and to provide, of course, for my family. He fights to provide for his family. He fights for his own. I don't know exactly everything. He could be fighting for God too. Who knows? But that's his personal relationship. That's his conviction. But I wasn't going to be like, oh, he's my friend. I'm not going to fight him. I'm sorry. I'm going to turn down that money. I'm going to turn out that opportunity that I've been training since I was 6 years old to get because he's my friend. They only come once in a lifetime. There's fighters that have been waiting their whole lives for that. And I got the opportunity. I signed the contract, took the fight. Sadly, it wasn't materialized, but I also show people that I don't care if it's my friend, I don't care whoever they put in front of me, I'm gonna fight.
I can respect that, though. I mean, I can respect that. Um, Unfortunately, I just don't understand why these two don't want to fight each other, and it's just it's a bad look. It's a bad look. I say it's a bad look.
I agree with you. I agree with you. If I agree with somebody, and like I said before in plenty of interviews, and those that are going to tune in, watch the ones before. I've always said if somebody knows boxing, and I enjoy talking boxing, is with you, Ivan, because you don't just look at boxing for being boxing, you analyze it also from other angles. Not just as a fighter, not just as a fan, not just from a person looking inside out. You analyze the whole thing and then we can talk boxing. And even now, you learn things from me and I learn things from you. That's the important thing. That is what really being called a boxing analyst should be.
I know. I appreciate that. I still got to learn your diet because I got a lot of weight to lose.
You'll get there, bro. You get there. It's easy. Yeah, I'll text it to you, man. I'll text it to you, but for sure.
But hey, before I let you go, one last question in regards to Teofimo versus Shakur. Shakur saying that Teofimo better not run. Now that's coming from Shakur, who can't punch. Do you believe that? Do you believe what Shakur is saying is true, or is he just talking to talk?
I'll be right back. Give me 1 second. Now, this man right here, that's my boy. That's a friend of mine. To this day, I don't see Theo running. And I said it, and I will say it again. This fight, I see Theo winning. Now, with that being said, me and him are really good friends. Me and Theo talk. But guess what? If I ever get the opportunity to fight him, I'll take it in a heartbeat. Doesn't matter. But what I'm saying is, Shakur, don't talk about running. As a matter of fact, let me take it a step further, okay? We're gonna talk about running when we were in Las Vegas Fight Club in right there, Flamingo and San Diego, Las Vegas. Shakur told me that he wanted, gave me his number. Oh, we're gonna spar your good work. I want to spar with you, this and that. I want you to help me get ready for my next fight. Called him, messaged him when he was back in Vegas. At the time he was training with Coach K. Came to Colorado Springs a couple times, and I'm here in Colorado. Try to reach out to him. Guess what? The one that ran was you, even from a sparring session. So what makes you think that he's gonna run in a fight? Come on, let's be real, brother.
Since you mentioned sparring, Teofimo sparred Shakur, right?
I believe so. Yes.
I think I just heard that a few days ago. So I always wonder
Mm.
how that went. I haven't seen
Me too. A lot of those sparring sessions that happen behind the scenes, we don't know. Like it's like, man, I wish I would have been there. Unless you're there physically, which I have been there for some great sparring sessions, and I've seen world champions go against world champions. You know, But at the same time, it's like, man, I wish I would have been there. I wish I would have seen the result. Because again, like a lot of people when they underestimated Rolly, they thought Rolly was gonna lose to Ryan and all this, oh, that was just sparring, this is that, it's not the same. Guess what? Yes, sparring is not the same. But if you're not a fighter that has the mentality that you need to overcome what you went and learn from what you went through that sparring session, you're not gonna beat somebody. Like everybody was saying, oh, Ryan is gonna beat Rolly because Rolly boxes too crazy and this and that. We saw the same thing that happened in the sparring session happen to Ryan. He was being bullied around by the smaller dude. Why? Because as a fighter, when you get in there and you spar somebody in your head, you also got to remember if you're not confident and your trust is not in the Lord and it's not in God and it's in yourself, you're going to be like, oh, you know what? I already lost to that dude in a sparring session. He made me look. So mentally, you already defeated yourself. Now, if you can't recover from that, adjust and make the adjustments, make the corrections from the sparring session, the fight is going to play out the same way. As a matter of fact, before you even step in the ring, like Sugar Ray Leonard said, you have already lost the fight. Mike Tyson has also said it.
Yeah. No, that I guess that goes back to what we just talked about with Keyshawn Davis and Andy Cruz. They fought in the past, and Andy Cruz beat him.
Just shows you, goes to show.
And since you've sparred a lot of top fighters of today,
Mhm.
have you sparred Teofimo?
Theo, me and him were supposed to spar when I was training under Ismael Salas. It was back at when Ismael Salas' gym was in the back of Bones Adams' house over there at like Rainbow. Um, Never happened. We never got to get in the ring, but I would have loved to. I would have loved to. That's one fighter that I didn't get the chance to that I would have loved to spar. But to this day, me and him are good friends. When I see him at the Bucks Fan Expo or when I see him anywhere out in public and this and that, I talk to his dad. I talk to him. We all get along. It's all love. At the end of the day, we're both fighters. It's like I tell people, boxing is the only sport where you can have two grown men fight each other, and at the end of the day, these two grown men are still friends afterwards.
Uh, Last thing before I let you go, I believe you picked Teofimo over Shakur.
Yes,
How? By decision, by KO?
I see Theo dropping Shakur eighth or seventh or eighth round. Now it might go to a decision. I don't like when I mean dropping. I don't mean like we like he's gonna knock him out. But I do see Shakur being hurt to the point where he goes down in this fight. Now, is it gonna go the distance? It might go the distance. Shakur might be able to survive, but that he's definitely gonna touch the canvas, he will.
Interesting. Interesting because, like I said earlier on, the question is, can Shakur take a punch? So if he goes down, will he be able to get back up?
Not just that, if he gets back up, will he be able to recover? We saw that when he got hurt by Cepeda, he was able to recover, but that doesn't mean he was dropped. It's a difference. When you're dropped, can you recover? We saw that perfect example of that. Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz. Anthony Joshua, when he got dropped in that fight, he didn't believe it. Was he able to recover from it? No.
Not too many fighters can recover like your uncle did. Your uncle came
Mm-hmm.
back up.
get dropped, get back up, and then go and knock the other dude out. And I'm like, oh man, you gotta be a special breed of dude to do that. Even to this day, I tell people, I'm like, man, if I could be a quarter of what my uncle was, man, I'd be happy as a boxer. If I could just be a quarter of what my uncle was, I'd be happy. I'm okay with that.
Joey Borrero, thank you once again for coming on KO Boxing.
Thank you for having me, brother. All right, take care, Ivan. God bless you, man.
God bless you.